Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and welcome back to part 2 of my Final Fantasy XIV Let's Play. Now, I didn't want to start recording this part until I had kind of gauged the success of the first part, and a lot of people were really receptive to the idea. Even people who have already leveled a lot of things, they just liked having something Final Fantasy XIV related, you know, to listen to while they're at grinding, or they're at work, or anything along those lines. So, due to the positive, the positive response for it, I'm going to keep going. I mean, I was going to level this character no matter what, but based on the response of that video, I was going to decide whether or not I would continue doing parts versus whether or not I would just level it on my own, in which case I might even be 50 already. Nah, just kidding. So, just to keep everyone up to date, what the heck is that? Why am I getting embraced? Oh, is that person just testing macros? I have no idea. So, just to keep people up to date, a couple things. I did a little bit of leveling in between part 1 and 2, just some of the side quests over in North Shroud. And the main reason why I did that was because I want to keep these videos somewhat timely. I know a lot of people don't care if it's long, but I don't want to go for long periods of time without some sort of knowledge to pass on at these lower level marks, you know, and all I was doing was, you know, a bunch of fetch quests and kill quests, and I generally felt like it was less interesting than at least when I was making progression with the main story or had something else to teach. Like, I'm going to be coming up on leave quests and the second rank of the hunting log. There are a few things that I'm going to be coming to soon that are definitely going to be more interesting, I feel like, or at least more insightful. Now, one of the big things that you're going to encounter on all of your low-level quests is at some point you're going to come to a quest that wants you to have full level 5 gear, pretty much, and that was why I was doing all of those other quests. Now, as you can see, I still don't have any legs, but I have everything else pretty much taken care of from my quests. So, when that happens, if you're doing these first few quests and you don't know where to get the level 5 gear, there's usually somebody very close called a merchant and mender, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go over to that person and you're going to want to buy any remaining gear with the gil that you managed to secure earlier. Now, like I said, I haven't played around with my UI too much yet in this part, so unfortunately the menu over on the bottom right, the one that's actually showing the gear, is covering my gil amount. But you accrue somewhere between, you know, 1,200 and 1,800 gil, depending on how many of the side quests. And the next thing is to make sure that you at least know what, you know, the quest actually wants from you. So make sure, now I'm going to do this with my mouse, even though I'm playing with the controller. Make sure, also that's not going to work anyway, so I don't know why I thought it would. Go to your journal and actually read the quest. This is a big thing that new players really don't do, is read the quest, because sometimes it's all in the quest. So it wants me to wear head, body, hands, legs, and feet with gear level 5 or above. So I'm going to equip the legs now, and when I do that, the guy should go to change, but he doesn't. And there's one very good reason that even though this is considered an item level 10 headpiece that I've been leveling up with, its base level is still only 1, which was something I actually wasn't sure about in the first part. So I actually passed up on taking a hat, and now I'm just going to make that up right now, and I'm going to get a hempen hat. I could have gotten this from a quest earlier, but I didn't, because I thought that the item level would actually be enough, and it wasn't. So if you end up getting the collector's edition with the Helm of Light, and you run across a quest that requires a headpiece early on, grab it, because even though you may not think you need it, it's probably best if you just grab it anyway. So this also gives you back like 128 gil anyway, and then of course there's more side quests in the area that you're going to want to try and get out of the way. Now, one other thing that I mentioned in the last part that newer players may be unfamiliar with, if you've played another MMO, you're probably familiar with the concept, is the concept of rested experience points. Now, it's really hard to see at the bottom, but you may notice, and it'll probably be easier to tell when I actually level up, that my bar it's the color for, you know, the fill, the XP, how much I've gained so far, and again, we're going to be skipping these cutscenes, but you'll notice at the end is kind of a different shade than it is when you're normally leveling up, and that is the rested experience. Now, when I actually level, like I said, it'll be a little bit easier to tell, but this basically gives you a bonus to experience points that you will gain strictly when you are killing enemies, and I believe fates also take from it. I'm pretty sure quest rewards, English, thank you very much, do not count for that. So, I mean, we'll find out in a second here. I want to try and avoid killing enemies until I actually level up, because I don't know how much rested experience I have. And for reference, I was probably offline for, it's been about a day, so we'll get a rough idea of how much a day's worth of rested EXP is. It's been such a long time since I've had to see it that honestly it's going to be new information to me all over again. It's not very often that I get to see my rested XP bar not all the way filled, because at level 50 you'll still generate rested experience points that you can use on your other jobs. But because I have so many jobs at 50 and I don't really level on my main character, I just know that I have 5 levels worth, and I'm just kind of used to it being there. In fact, I think I actually have my experience bar hidden at this point, which you can do in the UI section, which I'm going to eventually do a part of this Let's Play series where we basically just take an entire part and we move around the UI. I'm going to learn how to do it a little bit with the controller setup, see what I can and cannot do. And also I'm on a PC, so again, there are going to be things that even though I'm using a PlayStation 4 controller, I'm probably going to be capable of that most other people will not be capable, well, that console players won't really be capable of. I mean, there's probably already been a few things that I've done that are not possible on the PlayStation 3, and people that may confuse people since they see me using the gamepad. Now, there are this thing is hiding behind a rock. There are a few other little things that I definitely need to change. Something that I experienced in between the 2 levels. Hey, there we go. Okay, so before I kill that thing, look at the bottom of my screen. I'm actually going to use the mouse so you can see that. Now, look here. See how this area is a different shade than the rest of this area? How this last area is all darker? This lighter shade area is how much rested experience I have. So, for reference, it's a day was literally about a little bit less than half of a level. So, if you didn't play for a week, I'm assuming that it accumulates in a linear fashion and it doesn't gradually slow down as you obtain more of it, although I'd have to double check. That you would eventually gain a pretty decent chunk of a level out of that. You'd basically, if you stop playing for a week, you'd almost have the maximum amount. You'd have like, what, 3.5 levels or something along those lines? Between 3 to 3.5 levels. Because I didn't get to see it right from the beginning of the level, I don't know how much each individual kill is really throwing it off, but it doesn't seem to be throwing it off that much. Another thing to keep in mind is that I totally forgot to re-equip that helmet after I handed in that quest. So if you do end up buying the collector's edition and you have this Helm of Light, don't forget to re-equip it after you do that quest, because it's a little bit of wasted experience points. It's not too much, it's not the end of the world, but, you know, just to say. And I don't know why I casted Arrow first. So one thing I'm noticing with the gamepad, and, you know, like I said, playing with the gamepad is a bit of a learning experience for me, too. You know, I can do all the endgame raids without even looking practically, and I've actually done a few videos where I do it without looking. But the gamepad is completely foreign to me, so it is still a learning experience for me. And one thing I'm noticing is that I currently have my settings in by default in such a way that DPSing and healing as a healer is very, very annoying, and it's a setting that I will eventually change before I go into actual dungeons and whatnot. And what the setting does is it makes it so that when my weapon is not sheathed, which means I'm not holding it out right now. If I want to sheath it, I press L1 and R1 at the same time. Those are the default commands. Now I have a weapon sheathed. When I have a weapon sheathed, I can target myself, but I can't target other players not in my party. Or at least that's the way it seems, because I tried healing somebody outside of my party, and it totally did not work. So it seems like I got to change a setting, and I think I remember this setting. I think I've helped people with this setting before. But there's a setting where I can change that, so that way when my weapon is sheathed, I'm still able to go back and forth. Otherwise, you have to sheath your weapon constantly, and believe me, I'd much rather have them lugged in together than have to do it separately. So, we're going to be killing a few more enemies. I should be able to finish my first set of hunting logs in this video on this character. And then you'll see what basically happens, how you'll unlock the next set of your hunting log, and how big the experience points bonus is at this level versus the way it will be at the later levels, which is nearly non-existent. I'm really looking forward to... This guy has been AFK. Was this guy here in the last part? I have to go back and watch. I swear that guy's been AFK here since the last part. And keep in mind, I was here yesterday. 24 hours ago. This guy's still AFK here. See, at least I know the servers haven't gone down, or that he at least logged back on so he could sit in the middle of this area. I could have swore I saw that the guy had an ult in the area, and that might be why. There's a good chance he's camping hunt enemies, which would still kind of be weird to me, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me all too much. You'll hear me say that a lot, where something's weird to me, but at the same time, it makes sense, you know, kind of like conflicting personalities within me that are just like, that's so stupid, but I totally get it. It's like Dumb and Dumber, if you've ever seen that movie, pretty much. Just when I thought you couldn't be any stupider, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. Yeah. I'm the guy who doesn't redeem himself and just says the stupid thing. So there's a possibility that he's camping for what are known as hunt monsters. Now, these things are pretty much the only really low-level trap that you'll fall into as a new player in this game. And basically what they are, they're level 50 enemies. You may see them occasionally, and they basically are meant for an endgame piece of content that we'll talk about in a much later video called the Hunt. And in the Hunt, you just have to find these enemies and kill them. And at the end game, they're the stronger versions of them, the A and S rank hunts. You'll see mobs, hundreds of people, if it's the right time of day, just trying to kill these enemies, and they're dangerous. Now, if you find one, there's 3 different kinds. Like I said, there's an A and an S, but there's also a B rank. Now, I'm hoping that at some point in this video series, I'll run into a B rank, because the B rank is not dangerous. The B rank is a level 50 enemy, but it doesn't actually attack you. And that's another thing that we'll have to be going over, and we'll probably should touch in this part, is the symbols next to enemies' names, because that's something that a lot of players are not aware of. Even at the max level, some people don't really know what those symbols stand for next to the name. And by the symbol next to their name, I'm talking about the one to the left of the L where it says level 4. It looks, I don't know what color it is because I'm colorblind, but that one basically means that they won't attack you if you just run by them. But these enemies, these fate enemies always aggro you when you run by them. So if you run in front of this guy, he aggroes me. So fate enemies are always hostile. There might be a few exceptions to that, but for the most part, fate enemies are hostile. And the fate symbol is the little. Somebody told me that's blue, so I'm gonna run with that. Maybe it's purple. And like I said, the color blindness is really bad for me. So those are. It's like blue with a goldish outline, I believe. So that's a fate enemy, but there's a symbol next to the name that designates specifically if they're a non-fate enemy that they are aggressive. And the B ranks have a docile one, while the A and S ranks have one that says, hey, listen, if you come near me, you're going to die. The general rule of thumb is those enemies have very, very low ranges from which they'll attack players. So you really got to get up in their face if you plan on getting killed by them. So the general rule of thumb is if you see a giant enemy, like a giant enemy, don't even look at the level. If you just see an enemy that is way, way bigger than you, keep your distance until you know what it actually does. Now, obviously, there are some enemies that are straight up just bigger, like you see that treant over there. It's level 12, and it's non-hostile unless you attack it, although as a lower level player, accidentally attacking it will absolutely get you killed. Because especially considering what we got level 4s and 5s in the area right now. I don't even know if this fate is really worth it that I'm doing it right now. It's only level 4, so I'm not going to get a huge amount of experience points. And it's taking me a pretty long time to solo. Hopefully that guy decides he wants to kill some of these enemies, yeah. Fates, as nice as it is to sometimes have a fate all to yourself, sometimes I would just prefer it would go faster just by having extra people. So let me just try and master this targeting system that we have right here. Good. Yeah, he's coming by and killing a bunch of them. And realistically, you should try to stop and do as many fates as you can, because honestly, if you don't, there's a good chance you're going to hit that part of the main story where you're just not a high enough level to do it. If you stop and do almost every fate, as long as it's, not one that's too low of a level, then generally that won't happen on top of doing the leave quests. And again, this is all stuff we're going to be going through in this Let's Play series. I've spent like half of this just kind of killing enemies pretty much. But I mean, it is an MMO. What do you expect? Even whether we're talking about Final Fantasy XI, Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft, it's pretty much the gist of every single game that you're gonna... Oh, that guy was level 52. He's technically helping me with it. That you're basically going to just end up killing enemies at some point or another. Luckily, we can continue on a little bit with the main story here. These missions, there's some missions that are going to send you into like a little fight area, and this is going to be one of them, I believe. This is a sword on the tree trunk, I believe. Yes, okay. These will usually send you into an area where you might have some NPCs to heal or protect, or you just have to kill a couple of enemies. Pay attention to what kind of enemies are going on in this. I think this one we have to fight a couple of treants. And also, you enter these things solo, and if you're too high of a level, they'll actually level cap you. So there's a lot of different stipulations for these main story missions that usually, unfortunately, other than the dungeon related ones, you usually end up doing most of these solo. And it's one of the drawbacks of the game, is that when you're trying to, if you and a friend start playing together, that you just, that's it. You just have to separate and do something else with each other. And it is, and honestly, I am somebody who is, did I just cast Protect on myself? I did not mean to do that. Okay, I'm just going to attack the Oh, okay. Alright. Well, I'll just hang back, Ida. And, alright, let me stop targeting that guy. I keep trying to go for the one on the left, but that is totally not working right now. I don't know if I'm just supposed to be killing the big one, or if I'm just supposed to be helping kill the small ones. So, let's read what they said. Do you want to get eaten? Hit them harder. I'm trying. It just wants us to defeat them, it seems, but those guys are totally carrying me, so it doesn't matter. And that's what's going to happen in some of these missions. The NPCs that you're paired with are usually a great deal stronger. Okay, now this is where they probably want me to do a few special things. Now, there's some frenzied bulbs coming at me. Specifically, they're coming at me. So that's how I know, hey, these are the enemies I'm supposed to be fighting. Because they're coming at me. Like, I have to defend myself. I don't have to worry about the NPCs all too much. You can watch their HP bars, but normally it's not something that's too required. So then we're going to help them. We're going to go back, help them kill this. May get one more set of bulbs, but a lot of main story missions are going to be like this. Now, if you are a healer and you notice that the NPCs in your mission are getting beat up really, really bad, you can heal them. It's pretty simple to do so, and it seems like I'm not having that issue where I can't target. And also the NPCs, most of the time, they'll heal you back. In case you couldn't tell, they just threw me a 591 point heal. I have 160 HP or something like that. Yeah. So why do I keep doing that? I keep holding down R2 and then trying to tab through the targets, and it totally doesn't work. Another gamepad noob kind of thing that I do. All right. Let's get these out of the way. So yeah, as long as you stay near the NPCs, they'll usually heal you, and most of the time they'll heal themselves too. But there are some cases, especially as a conjurer doing your Conjure and White Mage quest, there are going to be several quests where you're pretty much expected to heal everybody. Now, you're not solely responsible for that, but it does help quite a bit. Now, what just popped up on my screen right there was an achievement. I got one of those in the last one. They don't do anything too special. Some of the achievements give minions or mounts or titles. All those things are completely optional, and, you know, if you're somebody who loves collecting them, have fun, because there's plenty of achievements to collect, but they lack a little bit of variety. I would like to see some more variety in the achievements that we get in Final Fantasy XIV. And that's something that somebody who's an MMO vet will notice as soon as they come into this game, that the achievements are very basic. Kill a certain amount of enemies, do this a certain amount of times. They rarely do something, oh, do this with this handicap, or do this in less than 5 minutes, or they really don't encourage that kind of attitude, it seems. And it's because when you hit level 50, speedrunning things is already popular enough as it is, and I guess they don't want to incentivize it further, other than the fact that, hey, you're going to get all these things done quicker. That's your reward for speedrunning it. Speaking of speedrunning, for anyone who's watching this who's a big fan of charities or speedruns, either of those things, Awesome Games Done Quick is actually happening, and I actually delayed recording this for several hours to watch Banjo-Kazooie speedrun, and I know there's a Diddy Kong Racing speedrun coming up, so I'll probably be rendering this while I watch the Diddy Kong Racing one. I think it's after Banjo-Kazooie, but basically it's a bunch of guys who play video games, that beat them real quick, and they raise money for charity. As of when I started recording this, they were already over $50,000, so those guys do some amazing work. I love doing charity work myself. I don't get to do it as much as I would like, but whenever there's a big event like that, I love just supporting it and giving shout-outs to people who may not, you know, there are people who just, it's not that they're not interested or in speedruns or charity or anything like that, but they're just unaware that those kind of things exist. I've spoken about AGDQ on my live streams many a times, and there are people who don't know because they're not people who are really big into watching live streams and or watching speedruns at all. Maybe they've seen a few on YouTube, but they may not know that there's an entire website dedicated to speedrunners. Multiple, obviously, way more than one. But I just wanted to shout that out for anyone who's watching this. If you're not doing anything, Sunday, what is today? Sunday, January 4th. I think through next Sunday, maybe even a little bit later. I don't know the exact schedule. But if you're looking for a good cause to support, go help them. It's the, what's the name of the foundation? It's a cancer prevention program that they're raising money for, and there's already been some big time donations. Notch right at the start donated like $10,000. And for those who don't know who Notch is, well, if you've played Minecraft, you know who Notch is pretty much. So we're gonna do this quest right here. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about with the hunting log and a lot of the quests that you'll end up doing in this game. In the earlier levels, I keep doing arrow first. In the earlier levels, most of the time you don't need to go out of your way to kill hunting log enemies outside of the first few, because you had to kill them to even unlock the hunting log. Now, you may remember earlier, I killed some Shigos, which are the enemies I'm killing right now, that were part of my hunting log. and now I'm killing them again for a different quest. If I had just waited to see if I was going to get a quest to kill these things before doing my hunting log, I could have killed less of these enemies and overall sped up my questing experience. But there is one thing that I always like to say, and it's something I learned back when I played World of Warcraft, is that most of the time your experience points don't come from the quest itself. They come from the enemies that you killed during the quest. Now, let's take that example right here. This is going to be the 6th enemy I kill. Each enemy has been worth 81 experience points with my rested experience points. So at the end, we're going to have 80 times 8. We're going to have 640 EXP. Now, we can check real quick in the journal how much experience points that this quest would have been worth otherwise. Now, of course, like I said, I do have rested experience, so it's plus 50% EXP, which does make a pretty noticeable difference on top of the helmet, which is another 20%. And I'm also not eating food, which I told everybody to do, since that does also increase the amount of EXP you get by 3%. But, I mean, if you look at your journal real quick, eggs over queasy, 975, this is actually not one of those cases. So, now I just seem like an idiot. But the point is, combined with the amount of experience points I got from the quest, this quest is worth 1,700 experience points, approximately. You have the 800 plus the 900. It's closer to 2,000, so we'll actually say 1,800. So the point is that while, yes, you do get a huge boost from actually completing the quest, that you can't discount the enemies that you killed in order to complete the quest. That is really more of the point that I am trying to make here, and is probably the better way to make that point. Now, what are the odds that nobody is at that fate? Pretty good. What are the odds nobody's at this fate? Pretty good. That's a problem you may run into at low levels as well, depending on the area and depending on if anybody's Atma farming in your area, is that a lot of times people aren't always around to do some of the harder fates. It's something that does happen quite a bit at the lower levels. As you start getting into the higher levels, that will almost never be a problem. But in these first few areas, especially this one, there are no Atmas, which is something that has to do with level 50. Again, that's something for a totally different video. But it's something that you can farm from fates. Actually, this area does have an Atma, so I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But the point is that unless there are people farming that item in your area, it can be quite hard to get some of these fates done. One easy way to just see if people are doing fates is if you notice that they're like 5 minutes in and they're at 0%, odds are it's not going to be worth running over, because you'll probably still be there solo and you're just not going to be able to do anything. Now, I'm pretty sure this guy gives me a quest to bring him a high potion. Or somebody here gives me a quest to bring him a high potion, unless they removed that, which I sincerely doubt that they did. I think after I hand in this quest, yeah, this guy ends up asking for a quest for me to bring him a high potion. I think you get that high potion quest no matter where you are. So, let me show you real quick. Again, that merchant and mender is pretty much where you're going to want to go in order to get your high potion. So, we're going to run over here. I have a quest to accept over here anyway, so that works out. So, we're going to go past this. Striking dummies, that's, again, going to be a video for a whole nother time. Let's grab this quest from this guy, and then we'll head over to the merchant and mender. Right over here. So we go to the merchant and mender. We need a high potion. We need to bring it to that guy. So what we're going to want to do is go to purchase tools. And I know that it's not really a tool, but that's just where it happens to be. It's 146 skill. Grab one. Bam. Quest done. I usually just run immediately back over and hand it in. But let's just look at the area and try and map out a more precise way of doing this. So if I run down here, circle around, finish this quest, and then come back, I can hand in all 3 quests at once without having to run back and forth the entire time. Now, sometimes these routes aren't always more effective. I mean, I'll be honest, they aren't always more effective, but to me, they just feel better to do. And on top of that, I can stop here in Bent Branch, which is the first pretty much major place that we've seen outside of a city that is a sanctuary, a place where you can generate rested experience by logging off and a few other things. And, you know, you get experience for discovering the new area, but most importantly, you're going to want to start attuning to these aetherites as soon as possible. Why am I getting a friend request? Unless it was somebody who watched the video, then it would make a little bit of sense. Or another new player who's just trying to make friends. It's not a bad thing. It's just probably not something I'll do too much of, because there are people who don't know this is me, and I name him Healer Happy, and thank goodness that nobody just immediately assumes that it's Mr. Happy, because otherwise I'd be getting 1,000,001 questions right now. And I don't mind people coming up to me and if they have something to say or they want to just ask me a question. You know, I do that all the time. But I'm trying to do the video, so I don't exactly have time to stop and answer questions for each individual person. So for now, while nobody recognizes this character, it's pretty good. So earlier I said that I would talk about enemies that have aggro symbols kind of next to their names, and that is a good example of the aggro symbol right there, that Bogyarzin. Now you see how that one's passive, it's just like the two circles with the kind of more triangle-ish thing at the bottom. This one with the three, with like the Triforce around the outside, it's colored differently. That means that it will attack me if I walk in range of it. And as you can see, both of them just decided, hey, that guy's trying to make a video. Let's go after him. So you have to be a little bit mindful of things. Sometimes trying to skip them can lead to much worse scenarios. Like, for example, what if I had just not noticed that these aggroed me, and I had just kept running, and I got aggro on another one, and I got aggro on another one, and all of a sudden I think I'm going to be okay, but then I can't get it. I can't get any of my cast off. I can't do anything. It just doesn't always work out in the best of ways. So you want to keep an open mind about what's around you and whatnot. And there was another thing that I wanted to talk about really quick, but I just forgot what it was because I was going to bring it up just before I brought that point up. Oh, it was the target lines, I believe. One way to tell if you've aggroed, and one thing that's going to help you a lot, is if you look at the, not bottom left, let me fight something and you'll see it again. If you look at above my my chat window, you'll notice that when I'm fighting something, you'll see the enemy's name there, and you'll see like a red square, a blinking red square. You'll also see a letter, and you'll see what is their HP bar. That is what's called your aggro list, and even at level 50, you gotta learn to use that thing a lot, because the aggro list has a lot of useful information. Again, it has the enemy's HP, it has their name. Since it has the letters, letters basically are just a way of identifying enemies based on their position on the aggro bar itself. So they're usually, if I'm not mistaken, they're usually in alphabetical order. So if you know that enemies, if you're trying to attack an enemy based on their letter specifically, it helps having that information on the left. Also, on the very far left is the actual aggro meter. Now, some people who have played other MMOs may be used to add-ons that do that kind of thing. And there are other ways to tell other than that, but that is a pretty dead set way of telling whether or not you have aggro on an enemy. If it is blinking, if it is like a blinking roundish square like it is now, then that means that you have the maximum amount of enmity on your target. And if you have the maximum amount of enmity over everybody else, not even maximum, the highest amount compared to anybody else, then the enemy will usually attack you. There are some things that can change that, but for the most part, that is what it means, and that is how you should interpret it. Advanced cases we'll be going over in later videos, but it does help knowing that, so you can wonder, oh, do I have aggro on this? If you're a tank especially, that is very, very useful. If you're not sure, if you're not sure how much enmity you have on an enemy when you're not targeting them, that really, really helps you tell. There are, again, other ways to tell how much aggro you have on an opponent, and you're going to hear me swapping back and forth between aggro and enmity, and that's just because enmity is a really weird word to say over and over again. Aggro is a perfectly workable word. Now, I just hit level 10. Level 10 is a pretty big point for most players. Now, I got the magic stick is the name of the achievement, but after I kill this enemy, the biggest thing that you'll have to start doing when you hit level 10 is you'll have to start putting in attribute points. Now, this is not a very difficult decision for pretty much everybody. What you want to do is you want to go to the main character screen, press this plus button, and then you'll be able to add 3 points at level 10, and then every other level, I think level 11 you get 1 more point, and then every odd level you get another point. All the way up to 30 points at level 50. So, when you are playing this game, for the most part, you just want to put this into your most influential stat. Now, DPS, usually you'll want strength if you're a lancer or a pugilist or a monk or a dragoon. If you are a rogue or an archer, you'll want to put in dexterity. And if you're a tank and you're doing dungeons a lot, like which you should be because you should be leveling up off dungeons as a tank, vitality is probably your best stat at the earlier levels. Having more strength if you refuse to do dungeons and you're just doing fates pretty much, or leaves, strength is probably the better stat, but you're most likely going to be doing a ton of dungeons to run with vitality. Now, if you are an arcanist, if you're an arcanist planning on going summoner, or you are a thaumaturge going black mage, intelligence is where you're going to want to go. And if you're a healer, it's kind of a toss-up between mind and piety. Mind makes your heal stronger, and piety gives you more MP. So I prefer to go with to go with mind. I prefer the stronger heals because if your heal does more, then you don't need to heal as often, thus you use less MP. In the lower levels, that almost never applies, but there's a very rare situations that you'll ever put your points into piety. Now, even if you aren't a tank, there may be considerations to putting points into vitality to make yourself a little bit more survivable. But that is, again, mostly a level 50 thing or a personal preference thing while you're leveling up. If you find that you're usually fighting enemies that are a higher level than you have to weigh. Would it be more worth it for me to be able to survive a little bit longer, maybe an extra 1 hit at most? Or would it be more beneficial for me to kill it faster? And that's really where it's going to go. It's not too common to split your points in the earlier levels. Some jobs will do it. Black Mage, there is a benefit to having a little bit of additional piety, but again, that's not something that usually kicks into level 50. And the same as a White Mage, maybe having a little bit of mind or a little bit of vitality to make yourself a little bit more durable, or having a few extra points of piety mixed in. But generally, you'll just throw 30 points into the stats that I just went over, and that'll be the end of it for you. End of discussion. You don't need to worry about anything else anymore. So, you're going to start doing that every other level. At level 11, you'll get another point, like I said. But at level, after that point, it's every other level. You'll have to worry about putting those points in. So, I wrapped around, I grabbed all these quests, and there are a lot of things I'm going to have to start going over now that we're level 10. One big thing is we're finally going to be gaining the ability to change classes at some point soon. We're also going to be unlocking things like guild hests and leave quests, and those are all really big parts of the leveling experience. Making use of those in an adequate way will very much break up the monotony of your leveling experience, and if it's a new class, can greatly benefit you in terms of gear and gil income. Doing leaves is actually a pretty solid way, especially when you hit over level 30. There are some items you can get from leaves that are very useful, but there are different ways to use it, and knowing which way is best for your goals is going to be a very important thing. For example, I'm recommending, since you probably want to level your first battle class to 50 first, I'm not assuming that everybody wants to do that. Some people prefer to level their crafts as soon as they can unlock them. But if you're just planning on leveling all your battle classes, you're someone who's not too interested in leveling your crafting or gathering classes, then you will probably end up spending them on your battle classes. And leave quests, you can get a ton of them, and they help a lot. Again, gear, gil, items, all those things really do come from leave quests, and it can really add up, especially at the later levels. There's an achievement, I think, for getting 10 million gil through leave quests, and I don't recommend going for that achievement unless you just don't care about your sanity. I care about your sanity, though, which is, why I'm doing this. Now, another thing is, this helm completely useless now because I'm above level 10. The only thing that's good about it is that it still has 1 strength, 1 mind. So if for some reason, which you shouldn't because you should have the hat from the quest earlier, if you need those stats, then you have them. Also, one other thing that I totally forgot to mention in the first part of the game is that the first quest that you do when you come in, you'll usually be in a cutscene with a dude who's going to ask you a question, and he's going to ask you if you want to gain power, if you want to amass a fortune, and usually, depending on your answer, you'll get a level 1 ring. That's not great, it's just +1 critical hit rate, but it doesn't hurt to equip it. I totally forgot about it till just now. I also got a copper wristlet from a quest earlier, and you're going to want to start filling up these individual spots on your list. Now, we're a little bit more than 30 minutes into the video, so I've gotten quite a few points across. I've spoken about the hunts, I've spoken about aggro systems, I showed you kind of how to plot out doing your quests instead of doing them one at a time and going back and handing them in. I've also shown you what to do when you start hitting level 10. Now, a lot of those features that I was bringing up before, we won't be able to do until I do my next class quest, until I do a few more main story missions. So we're ahead of the schedule. We're ahead of the curve that the main story has proposed to us. I'm gonna check how far ahead we are after I kill these enemies that are at these decaying trees, but considering that I'm killing level 5 enemies for the quest, I could assume we're a good 5 levels ahead of the main story. And staying ahead of the main story is a good idea. Now, you don't want to be so far ahead that when you're level 50, you have a bunch of level 40 quests to do, unless your goal is eventually to level your alternate classes while still doing the main story. If you get that far ahead, though, honestly, your secondary classes probably wouldn't have been an issue anyway. The only thing I'm worried about are my DPS classes, and that's just because the queues get pretty ridiculous for dungeons. A queue is basically your ability to enter an instance or a dungeon to fight bosses and gain loot and experience points and all that. And at the lower levels, it can be pretty troublesome. And I'm really, I guess, kind of playing it off. It's substantial. It's pretty substantial how bad it is for DPS classes at the low levels, especially on certain data centers. I think the Chaos data center, which is, I don't remember which servers are on there, I think low level DPS queues are horrendous. There's still a lot of people leveling Ninja, and a lot more people leveling DPS jobs as they get ready for the expansion coming out in a few months. So, you know, all that really adds up. One thing I would like to show you guys before I end this this Let's Play part, and a couple things I want to say while I'm coming towards the end, is I really want to show the next part of the hunting log. I need to see what enemies I need to kill for that, though. Because if they're over in North Shroud, I'll probably return to Gridania, and then I will go from there. Because, you know, I'm not just gonna run over to North Shroud. We'll be here an extra 10 minutes if I have to do that. The world takes a pretty long time to just run through. Teleporting is what makes the world feel a little bit smaller. Don't know that we'll have such a luxury in Heaven's Word. I've seen very few Aetherites in Heaven's Word, so looking forward to seeing if teleporting will even be a thing. Now, all these animal hides that I'm getting, you're probably gonna see me just vendor them because I'm probably not gonna do too much crafting yet on this character. I would like to show people the basics about leveling your crafting, especially when you hit level 50. Once you get access to a special type of quest called Beast Tribe Quest, the Ixal Beast Tribe Quest, which is a beast tribe that's actually native to this area. You'll see me killing some of them not too far from now, and you will see them if you start in this area in the opening cutscenes. But they are great for leveling your crafters, and you can make good money off of them. You can start working on some of your higher tier gear with the money that you get. So leveling a crafter, at least doing those daily quests, is a huge benefit to any player that really, really wants to do them. So one thing I'm going to take a look at is my hunting log. As you can see, I am 8 out of 10, so we want to see which ones we are missing. We are missing the Syrphid Swarm. Now, one thing about the hunting log I didn't mention in the last part, and that I also run right past the quest NPC that I'm trying to go to, is that if you highlight them, it'll tell you what area approximately they're in. So this one's in Central Shroud in this area, but this one's all the way in East Shroud, which is actually not too far from here. It's just a little bit north. So we're going to run over, we're going to grab the one that is in the Central Shroud first, and then we're going to run over and grab the North Shroud ones. But remember, I did say, also we already have a copper wristlet, so let's just get a bronze piece. I did say that you want to avoid killing the enemies ahead of time, because like I said, there's probably going to be a point where you do a main story quest that will coincide with the killing. Again, micro chews. I'm pretty sure I've killed these for the quest already, for my hunting log already, but I need to kill them for this now. So, you know, we're going to probably kill a few more enemies, call it the end of this part. In the next part, we're going to look at the, the next part of the hunting log. I'm pretty sure you unlock lead quests at 10 and not 15. Like I said, it's been a long time, but pretty sure you unlock it at 10. We probably won't get the dungeons for a few more parts, and I'm going to be trying to put these out bi-daily, I think is the right way. Like, not every day, but every other day. Because I have the Let's Play parts for Kingdom Hearts as well that I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to work on my Ninja Guide, and I'm trying to do some updates to my to some of my endgame stuff, some endgame guides that I want to work on. So I actually have quite a bit of other work on my plate. So if you don't see a part on... This should be coming out Monday. If you don't see a part on Wednesday, it's probably because you'll see my Ninja Guide or an update to Coil Strategies or something along those lines. So a little bit of insight as to what you can probably expect later in the week. And patch 2.5, which I'm going to keep including the number of the patch in the titles for this series, because I want people to know how up to date it is. You know, it's something I probably should be doing in all of my videos, but you know. That's it gets updated quite a bit, so it'd be pretty hard to keep it updated all the time, you know. But patch 2.5, which is the next major patch of this game, is probably going to put a little bit of a damper on this video series for a short time while I get out all the guides for the new stuff that is coming out for that patch. So around January 20th, between January 20th and the beginning of February, you may see a break in parts for this specific series, just because I need to be able to get all that done. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of enemies to kill for this quest. I'm actually approaching level 11 already. So, I mean, I consider the way I'm leveling a success. Now, there are some faster ways to do it. There are ways to what is called power level players, but you really need higher level friends to do that, and you also need willing higher level friends to do that. Where basically, I'd run around and I'd spam arrow on different enemies, and then they would kill the enemies for me. Like, if that guy just all of a sudden started attacking this thing, he would kill it in one hit, and I would get all the experience points. And it almost looks like he's considering doing that, but, like, not really. It's kind of weird that he's just standing there and running circles around it, as if he's watching to see if I die, or if I mess this up somehow. That's what it seems like to me. Because he's literally just watching. Someday. Okay, now he's leaving. See, he's got a mount for, he's got the PvP mount. I gotta work on that on my main character. When I hit, some people in the comment section of the first part mentioned that when I hit level 30, I should show people the Wolves Den. I would love to do that. I'm gonna say good luck getting a queue for the Wolves Den. That's gonna be a different video in itself. I mean, I've made videos about PvP in the past, about how it needs improvements before we're ever gonna really see it, you know, become a core function of the game. And the Wolves Den, as much as I would love to show you the level 30 version, and love to show you me getting stomped in the level 30 version, is specifically, it probably won't happen. I'll give it a shot when I hit level 30 on this character, but I sincerely doubt I'm going to be able to get into a single game. That's one thing. Another thing that I really feel that this game needs for lower level characters is PvP for lower level characters. I understand that you don't have nearly as many tools, and that it's probably, to some people, less competitive. But an alternate route for leveling, more leveling routes, is always welcome. PvP should be a welcome leveling route. The only dispute I'd see to that is that players may be unaware how to play their jobs in endgame dungeons by the time you hit level 50. Which is why I'd at least say make it from level 30 to 50, give it the option. Because PvP matches would probably not be the fastest way to level anyway. So it would probably still be a thing, but not as much. More or less to just break up the monotony. And also, you know, dungeon queues are long. Hopefully your PvP queues wouldn't be as long. So there's a lot of little things I'd like to see them improve still on this game, and you're going to hear me talking about that quite often in this video series, just because, you know, I grew up with Final Fantasy. I grew up with the single player games. I played Final Fantasy XI for 7 years, and I'd always saw ways that things could be improved. And you know what? People see it all the time. People make recommendations all the time. My opinion is no more important than the opinions of every other player who may want certain things to change or be added to the game. All of our opinions are valid. That's why they're opinions. But you're going to hear me. I'm very vocal about my opinions, and I usually try to make a solid foundation for my argument as to why something should be changed or something should be added to the game. And hopefully that doesn't bother you guys too much, but, you know, feel free to do that as well. Just make sure that if you're kind of wondering, like, you're kind of wishing something would be added to the game, whether or not you're agreeing with me, you don't have to agree with everything I say. Just try to have, like, a solid idea of where it would go, you know. Obviously, there's always going to be tweaks that could be made to every idea to make it either more or less enjoyable for a certain fraction of players. But it's nice to have those ideas, because if other people share your opinion and your idea, then it means you're able to be a voice in the community, and you're able to maybe influence some of the changes that are being worked on. And you know what? That's kind of part of what an MMO is. You want to be a voice. You want to be a well-constructed voice, but you want to be a voice nonetheless. Because just going around and hollering about things you don't like, or things that they need to change, without really any sort of statistical evidence, or hey, I got an RMT tell. That's always nice. RMTs are really nice nowadays. I'm not going to read it because I don't want to advertise for them, but that's always interesting. So you always want to have a well-constructed idea. And you know what? I've seen Reddit. When people have well-constructed ideas, people are usually pretty receptive to it, and that's the thing about, you know, coming up with, you know, opinions and anecdotes for situations and statistics that would show, or there are a lot of little different ways to, you know, express your opinion in a way that other people will agree with. And it's something that I've been practicing on, because I can get pretty bad. I can get pretty matter of fact, like, no, this has to change. I'm guilty of it too. I don't think anybody's 100%, you know, innocent of doing that in their life, especially when it comes to video games, something that most of us are really passionate about. Most MMO players are, as it is, passionate gamers, you know, in the first place. So it can be pretty easy to get blindsided by our own opinions and kind of not look into the way others may see things. So I don't want to encourage that. that much, though. I want to encourage people to build a healthier outlook on games and the ways that they can be improved. So I'm going to quickly hit level 11, and on that more sentimental note, I'm probably going to call this video an end right there. I'm glad we were able to discuss the things that we did over the course of the last 45 minutes. It's always good fun doing these videos where I can just talk to you guys and get some feedback in the comment section of the video below. Don't be afraid to use that, even if you're voicing criticism. You don't have to always, it doesn't always have to be something. Just make sure that if it is a criticism, that it's well constructed. You know, that goes back to what I was just saying before. Even if you have a criticism of somebody, saying it offensively does not help that criticism. That criticism kind of loses validity if it's almost like you're attacking the person. So I saw some criticisms in the first part, and you know what? There were a lot of people that constructed their criticisms well. Some people that even had a criticism, but they didn't let it kind of get in the way of other people's opinions. So I just leveled up again. Big thing you want to check. Okay, I had to make sure of this. So you actually, I don't know why I thought this would be the case. Yeah, every other level at level 12. Ignore the whole level 11 through 13, 15. No, every other level after level 10, you will get an attribute point. And that is when you'll do it. So at level 12, I'm going to get another attribute point. I don't know why. It has to end at level 50, the final point. So I don't know why I thought an odd number. I don't know. Whatever. It's done. It's a mistake. I made it. I haven't had to deal with gaining these points in a long time. So excuse me for that one. And we're level 11. We're going to end it there now. Just for reference, we are on what main story mission? We are on level 9 main story mission. So we're only 2 levels ahead of it. It is catching up on us fast. So we really got to start making use of the other systems that the game is going to start implementing. Again, leave quest, hunting logs, challenge logs at level 15 are a huge one, especially as a healer. One of the best tools a healer can use to level up because they can more easily use the challenge log and the different features that are there, especially when leveling up. So anyway, guys, again, be sure to leave your comments in the section of the video below. Anything you'd like to see eventually, even if it's not something in the immediate next part. Any criticisms you might have, any recommendations you might have. I read pretty much almost every comment that comes into the section on YouTube. So feel free to talk and discuss things below there. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. That's what those little things, you know, they help let me know that you want me to keep doing these videos. So I really appreciate whenever you guys do those things. So I'm going to end this right here. I'm going to go log off over in Bent Branch over there and render this video, get this guys to you out on Monday. And thank you guys for watching the video and supporting the series. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.